Welcome to this little piece about personality types. There's a lot of interest, and there has been for quite a while, about personality types and what is a type. A type is not, we say, oh, well, isn't she shy and isn't she cute, or, there's a masculine type or a feminine type, and all kinds of ways of naming types. Sensing type, extrovert, all kinds of things where we take a trait or an aspect and we call that a type. In my view and my experience, a type, a typology, in a typology, there is something at the core that drives the personality, that drives our behavior, that drives our meaning making. And that core satisfies something essential in us, to what it means to be human. So I want to share today with you a few things about the core personality type and what that means. One of the fears people have about type is that it's going to be there, you're put in a box and it's a label. And as my friend Linda Ernst says, we didn't have a tattoo artist ordered for today, so you're not going to get anything tattooed on your forehead. But a typology is useful. It's useful information to help us understand some very important aspects of ourselves. When we're talking about the typology, we're talking about this core self here. What is at our core? And there are different aspects of what is at the core. It is these things that are at the core are like the DNA of our personality, like they're there from the beginning. You can observe these patterns in children as they're growing up, and I've seen them in my own grandkids, I've seen them in other people's kids. You can see these patterns at play throughout the span of life. And we know from neuroscience research that's being done right now that those patterns do exist. They're ways we have of using aspects of our being and our brain. And each of the lenses that we use explains a different aspect, that it's who we are at our core. So to really understand that what we're trying to get at is not how you are at work, not how you are at home, not how you are as a teenager, and not how you are as somebody in midlife or somebody who is in later years. So it isn't about any particular point in time, it's what is common, what's the common thread throughout your lifetime. Now I like to explain that in terms of this diagram here. So we have this core self, and that's like the template that you came into the world with. It's there from the beginning, it's like the seed of an apple. It's there, the template is there, and how it emerges is going to be governed somewhat by that template. So what we're talking about when we're talking about a personality type, we're talking about something that is enduring, that endures over the lifetime. And what is that pattern? And it's not always easy to detect that pattern. Personality instruments can tell you about them, but they may or may not be accurate. Reading a book can tell you, a professional using the typology models can tell you, but not everyone's going to be accurate. And experiences in a workshop. And there's always a little margin of error because people are unique and different. So where does that come from? Well, we have this core self, and this core self is born into an environment. And that environment, the situations that are going on out here, that's what's out here. And that's what we call the context. So we could call this the contextual self. So this contextual self is how you respond in the moment. It's what you're doing in a particular situation. It's where you really have the opportunity to be very adaptable and very flexible. And that may change from time to time. So we're in this situation, and the pressures come from the environment and push and push and push and push. And they may match this core self or they may not. So we have another self. So here's this other self. And this is what I call the developed self. my markers don't spell right. Anyway, so we have these developed self. So we have this developed self. Now the developed self is when you've done certain kinds of behaviors after a while, even if they don't match what's there, what was there naturally, those behaviors become automatic. They become habitual, and they become, you adapt to the environment, and that becomes a way that you grow and develop. There's also a push from this core self outward. So we could do this, right? Pushes out for you to develop in a certain way. Just like the environment pushes in and says, you know, this gets translated for. Okay, so it pushes in, it becomes this developed self. Now, I like to say that the developed self is who you really are. And who you really are you have a lot of autonomy to create who you are in this practice. So you know that you've adapted, you've developed, you have certain aspects of yourself that you're pretty proud of developing skill in, or certain ways of responding to things. So this developed self is there's always this opportunity for you to adapt and to grow. Growing is natural. It comes from there's a push from inside. We don't have to teach a baby how to walk. Babies learn to walk, they learn to talk, unless something drastic has interfered. So there is this natural urge to develop, and you never give up the developed self while you're searching to find out what's at your core. And what is at the core is there, it's going to be there no matter what, exerting this pressure outward for you to get your core needs met, for you to get your core physiological drives met, for you to think about things in a certain way. We know about these things. So they've been observed for many years, and there's got to be some reason that these patterns have been observed for over 25 centuries.